welcome to the StarCityGames.com Baltimore Open weekend. The final Open here in the StarCityGames.com tour. As we're ready to watch Brad Nelson, Ross Merriam, Jeskai Control, Is It Phoenix? This isn't Versus Live. This is the SCG Tour, and they're doing battle. It should be fun. Brad's going to start things off with a Celestial Colonnade. Ross taking a draw. Steam Vents untapped. Serum Visions to begin. Ross will draw a card and then he'll scry 2.
And again, I think a lot of pressure on Ross to have a draw with, ideally multiple, but at least one Arclight Phoenix.
Brad will deploy a Search for his Kanta on turn 2.
That's game.
Well, it's a hard card to beat. I'll say that.
That is quite the card.
Another Serum Visions here. Ross will draw and scry 2 once again. To the bottom, those will go. The follow-up is the Steam Vents here from Merriam. And he will just pass the turn back. We're going over to Brad Nelson. He will take a look at the top card. And now he's figuring out what he wants to do with it. Pathex. Ooh, boy.
Okay.
Ooh, man. That going into the graveyard? All right. Here's an opt.
I mean, if he's got a Snapcaster Mage, then reasonable to try to get the ball rolling here. Get some spells into the graveyard to flashback.
To me, that's just a real show of strength on the hand as well there from Nelson.
Because this is the wind-up turn here, turn 3 is where it's pretty easy for Merriam to get a Phoenix into the graveyard and play 2 additional spells.
It's a Serum Visions, number 3. Ross will draw and scry 2. Looks like these cards are going to the bottom again. Mountain. Yep, there's Faithless Looting. No surprise there. Now the question is how many Arclight Phoenixes is he going to discard? I imagine it's at least one copy. And it is, along with Is It Charm. And here's your third spell. It'll be another copy of Faithless Looting. So Ross will draw 2 more cards looking for more copies of Arclight Phoenix. And will discard more cards.
No, I don't believe he found it. Still, 1 is at least something.
Well, I have to imagine that if Brad was willing to place that Path Exile into the graveyard, that 1 Arclight Phoenix is not going to do much here. And that Arclight Phoenix trigger is on the stack. Oh, there's a path. We'll also go fishing out of land, and we're going to head back over to Brad. 2 cards in the graveyard there for Search. Let's make it 3 with Lightning Helix going to the graveyard. Perhaps Brad is missing red mana. Or any mana at all.
Would also explain the path there. Milling that over earlier. Now, if you're Merriam here, you can follow up with some Crackling Drakes. There's not a whole lot you have to worry about. Logic Knot, and I suppose another path, even that's not the end of the world.
And Snapcaster Path as well.
Yep. But it might be an opportunity here to stick one of your Crackling Drakes.
Looks like Arclight Phoenix was the draw. There's a thing in the ice. And we'll go over to Nelson, who will draw a card. He'll keep that one on top. Sulphur Falls will provide land 4, red source 1, blue source 3. All important because now Cryptic Command is on, as well as Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and other red spells here for Brad. Faithless Looting here from Merriam. He's going to bring Thing in the Ice down to 3 counters. He'll draw 2 and discard 2.
Not like Brad has to be in a huge rush to answer Thing in the Ice. And if you're Merriam here, you're kind of wanting to try to spread out your threats a little bit. For example, once you have Thing in the Ice, you'd rather do something with Arclight Phoenix than Crackling Drake most of the time to play around Supreme Verdict a little bit.
Another Faithless Looting. Down to 2 counters. Got a quick update for you on one of our other matches. Austin Collins, our Ironworks player, is currently up a game here over Joe Blizzard. That's Ironworks up a game over Azorius Control.
And now we see Joe Blizzard sideboard come to play. So he is ready for Ironworks, though being down a game against a deck that explosive is always stressful.
Ross going to finish resolving this Faithless Looting. And he'll discard an island and another copy of Faithless Looting. Next up is the Steam Vents Untapped. This Merriam is going to fall down to 14. And now it's a Bolt that's going to go upstairs. Thing in the Ice on 1 counter. Ross would like to bring back Arclight Phoenix. I think Brad says that's fine. The 3-2 is back. See what Nelson's plan is here. In for 3. Comes Merriam.
This is kind of a nice, sort of the spread I was talking about here. Try to get some stuff in play that is threatening, like Thing in the Ice, and some stuff in play that's resilient to removal, like Arclight the Phoenix.
Cryptic Command's going to bounce Thing in the Ice, it looks like. And it was bounce draw. A little bit of damage there from the Arclight Phoenix before we head back over to Brad. Four cards in the graveyard for Search for Escanta. 3 to go before that thing transforms into that very difficult to beat land. Escanta the Sunken Ruin. Nelson with a decent amount to think about before simply passing the turn back after playing a Field of Ruin. So we head back over to Merriam. Picked up a copy of Monastery Swiftspear. And he'd like to attack here with Arclight Phoenix. That's where he'll begin things. Brad's down to 11. Crackling Drake as he's going to attempt to resolve. Very powerful if it's on the battlefield, and it is huge, and it will resolve. Okay.
Yep, this is kind of the one hitter we talked about before. No, I don't know exactly what the power is, but I'm guessing it is 11 or beyond.
Yeah. Field of Ruin going to go after the old Steam Vents. Both these players will search. Mountain there for Brad. Island there for Ross. Another update here for you. Max Medeiros with Grixis Death Shadow wins game number 1 there over Max Schrantz playing Jund. So number 8 overall seed is up a game on the number 1 overall seed as this is a Lightning Helix. And it looks like a Lightning Bolt. Crackling Drake down. Nelson going to keep rolling. Lightning Bolt will be placed into the graveyard. Search for Escanta will trigger and transform. And now Escanta, the Sunken Ruin, is onto the battlefield. Nelson will play a Flooded Strand and pass the turn back. And he's at a pretty healthy life total here at 14. And he's just looking to lock it in there with the land.
I mean, Ross's deck does have some reach, but not as much as, the mono red Phoenix deck that we have in the top 8 here. Brad has a little bit of a cushion to play with from here.
Quick update here for you on our other match that we have not given you a result just yet. Jeffrey Carr, a mono-red Arclight Phoenix player, up a game over the great Seth Manfield. Of course, Manfield playing Jeskai Control. Down a game now as that's a Manamorphose here from Merriam after that Monastery Swift Spear. Looks like 2 blue floating here for Ross. He'll go to Opt. 1 blue floating. More triggers there for the Monastery Swift Spear.
Looks like Merriam decided to keep Crackling Drake there.
And now he's going to flashback Faithless Looting. No mana floating here for Ross.
And these Faithless Lootings do a lot of work here in helping Merriam stay sufficiently threat dense. He can loot away, lands or ineffectual cards like Gutshot. And even though he's light on, I think the total number of his cards in deck that matter is low. By managing his hand and the cantrips, he can at least try to draw most of the meat of the deck.
Time to discard 2. There we go. Ross would like to attack. Looks like it's going to be 7, I believe 3 spells with the Swift Spear.
And Ross here willing to throw the Arclight Phoenix right into the Colonnade. 2 ways this could be justified. One is just make Brad try to spend enough mana that he can't activate as Kanta the Sunken Ruin. The other is, if Merriam has a gut shot, maybe you can finish it off.
Electrolyze looks like it wants to take care of the Phoenix.
Yeah, this is really good for Brad here. He can take the lumps here from the Swift Spear if he feels like it, and then still have the mana left over to activate as Kanta. I mean, that's kind of how you would like to do this. You want to keep it measured, where you're managing the battlefield, tapping out every turn, trying to get your most expensive cards out of your hand, while leaving yourself enough mana to activate as Kanta and pull ahead that way.
The goal is to do both.
Not always possible, but the more that Brad can do that, every cryptic, every path that he finds, it's just Ross will run out of cards that matter for each one of those that Brad can find. I mean, honestly, it's not even out of the question that Ross can get decked in a matchup like this.
Yeah, I guess that's not impossible.
I'm guessing that Brad, it's more likely Brad just takes control with a Planeswalker before we get to that point, but I think it is in play that the game can break that way.
Top 4 cards here for Nelson with the Escanta. Such a powerful enchantment and land is Search for Escanta.
Totally busted. Totally busted.
Nelson giving the hand a long look. Considering the life total, he's at 9. Before selecting Cryptic Command. Brad will draw.
Cryptic is a nice find there. Brad has enough mana to both Cryptic and activate as Kanta, and on top of that, there's really no... Game 1, Ross only has an Izzet Charm to play back, and Brad has plenty of mana.
And we're already through that Izzet Charm.
And Merriam plays basically, in terms of cards that are threatening, plays only in his main phase. So Cryptic plays really well. Game 2, post-board, when Ross has more access to spells and such, maybe it's a little bit different, but Game 1, his deck kind of just has to just run his face into Cryptics. Doesn't have a whole lot of ways to play around it.
Yeah, this is what you felt could happen at the top. Is here's an opt. Cryptic Command is a major player in this matchup, and these games aren't going to go long, like you mentioned. Yep. It is pretty rare that they're short. Here's Chart of Course.
And I think Merriam's found another copy of Arc-like Phoenix, which is nice. He can try to just re-up, reload. The problem here, of course, is that tap and draw kind of undoes all of this work. And if Nelson has something like Supreme Verdict, then Ross has to go through all this again. And, you know, his deck is full with spells. A lot of them replace themselves. But there is a cap on the number of times he can play 3 spells in a turn.
I agree. All right, Arclight Phoenixes are back, along with that Monastery Swift Spear that has 3 prowess triggers. So Cryptic Command says, I don't think so. Let's slow you down there, Ross Merriam. So tap and draw. And maybe it's Escanta time. Maybe. It is.
Not in his deck, of course, but this is what I'm speaking to when I was talking about Detention Sphere.
Be great here.
Be a really good spot.
Logic, not this selection. It's a pretty hard counter at this point. Steam Events enters the battlefield tapped there for Nelson. Still access to 8 mana.
Yeah, that's the magic number. That's Supreme Verdict plus Cryptic Command plus Escanta activation. He gets 2 of those.
Merriam would like to go to his attack step. It'll be an attack for 7. Electrolyze. That's going to take care of a Phoenix. Probably a little too risky for Brad to go after a Monastery Swift Spear, so.
Yeah, this is against Ross's 7 cards.
Yeah. Strikes me as probably not a great idea. Electrolyze. Phoenix down. Another card drawn there for Nelson. Does Ross want to play any more spells here? Looks like it'll be just dealing 1. Thing of the Ice. Ross still trying to make life difficult here for Brad.
Yeah, and I'm curious now if Brad has access to any of his copies of Supreme Verdict. He has 2 in the main deck. This setup right here with Swift Spear plus Thing in the Ice is a nice spot for Supreme Verdict. You're killing a bunch of non-recursive threats.
Ross going to replay Faithless Looting, of course, flashback style from the graveyard. He'll be drawing 2 and discarding 2, and Thing in the Ice thawing itself out down to 3 counters. Discard a Thing in the Ice and a Crackling Drake, it looks like, for Merriam, playing a land, so it looks like his hand might be pretty powerful, as it wouldn't surprise me if Ross is trying to get through his deck to just find more copies of Lightning Bolt.
I also think there's just those cards are not good against Supreme Verdict, and that card's an issue potentially right now.
Hieroglyphic Illumination cycled not once but twice there by Nelson. So 2 new cards. You throw a draw step into the equation and those 2 electrolyzes, and Brad's seen a handful of new cards since he's taken his last turn.
Yeah, it looks like Brad asking for a count on the deck. I'm guessing mid-20s is about what's left.
See if we can find out there from our table spotter if Brad made that request. We try not to ask unless a player makes that request. So we head back over to Merriam. And it looks like Brad did not ask for the count in the deck, so we will not prompt them to give us that information.
But, as we talked about before, it's possible for the game to break that way. Clearly, Ross is conscious of that fact. He's only got so many opportunities to get a good swing in. And every Cryptic and Supreme Verdict where he gets set back, it often involves drawing, 4, 5, 6 cards he's looking at. And you can only do that so many times.
Manamorphose twice. That's 2 more cards. That's 2 more spells. Thing in the Ice is down to just 1 counter. And now Ross would like to flashback Faithless Looting number 4. No mana floating. And what's a little awkward here, of course, is that this Thing in the Ice is going to transform into Awoken Horror, and it's going to bounce the Monastery of Swiftspear. They don't synergize all that well, unfortunately.
There's a lot of that going on here. Arclight Phoenix, Anger of the Gods. Familiar with that one.
Well, I am not, because I would never play such cards.
Sure.
Phoenix Scissor back. Not hard for his deck to do this.
Gonna maybe snap Cryptic here.
There is Snap.
No, just
Cryptic. My apologies.
Just Helix to pre-combat.
Yeah. And there's Cryptic. Got a couple Game 3s coming up in 2 of our matches here, folks. Mac Schrantz, our number 1 overall seed, with Jund to tie things up against Max Medeiros. So Jund and Grixis Death Shadow going to game number 3. And then Joe Blizzard with Azorius Controls tie things up here against Austin Collins. They're going to G3 as well. Collins, of course, playing Ironworks. And he's got a lot of hate to overcome in Joe Blizzard's sideboard as Hieroglyphic Illumination looks like it'll be played, and Nelson will draw 2. We're going to head back Brad's way.
A little surprised to see Illumination cast rather than as Kanta activated. It's one thing if you've got a draw 2 that you have no choice but to play as draw 2, but as Constantine versus Illumination seems roughly the same to me in the short term, and you have the option of cycling the Illumination should mana be tight down the line.
Nelson will play a Field of Ruin. Could be Teferi time. And we have our first result, and it might surprise some of you. Maybe it doesn't surprise Jeffrey Carr, though. He wins his match over Seth Manfield 2-0. Mono Red Arclight Phoenix takes care of the former world champion and Magic Hall of Famer Seth Manfield. Another top 8 on Seth's resume, but he will go no further here in Baltimore. Congratulations to Jeffrey Carr. Going to play the winner of Blizzard and Collins when we get there. Teferi here, tucking away Thing in the Ice. And now that is a gut shot to take care of Teferi. You don't see that every day.
No. Clean. Just enough to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Arclights are coming in. Colonnade's getting fired up. Will this even get the opportunity to block? Be a little surprised if it did. You're looking at a player here, and Ross has got a copy of Lightning Axe in hand.
Yeah, and has looked at quite a few cards.
Mm-hmm. Ross going to use the cheap mode there on Lightning Axe. Brad's got a Path. So Colonnade will bite the dust. Merriam with not a lot of cards left in that deck, and he's out of basics, so he's just going to shuffle.
You can see, I mean, that the deck size is starting to come into play here. He's getting low.
Maybe this is the plan here by Nelson, and it's an interesting one because in order for Ross to be able to facilitate Arclight Phoenix coming back, he does have to continue in most instances to draw cards.
Yeah, he's just got to just play a bunch of cantrips to keep it going. You can see Brad's taking account now too.
Crackling Drake is going to bring Ross's library from 15 cards down to 14 if this resolves. And it will. Over to Nelson. The plan might be to deck ya. Ten lands on the battlefield here for Brad as he organizes them a bit. 3 islands, a mountain, a plains, glacial fortress, field of ruin, steam vents, sulfur falls, and the very powerful as Kanta, the sunken ruin.
Don't think it really bears mentioning, but in case you're curious, the Crackling Drake is lethal.
Thanks, partner.
No problem. Wow.
The whiff.
And if Brad is main phasing this as Kanta, I'd be really surprised if he did that if he had Supreme Verdict.
Sensing a little bit of weakness, perhaps.
Yep. He may not have an answer to this Crackling Drake.
Ross may have slogged through it all.
Well, there's still 2 Supreme Verdicts hanging out in that deck.
Teferi, tuck the Crackling Drake.
Remember that Ross still has that Swift Spear. It's possible if he can chain together enough spells here, he might have lethal.
Let's go over to Ross. You see the opt in hand. It's got a Serum Visions too.
I mean, he can. I'm sure Swift Spear plus 3 spells is no problem for Ross here. It's just going to be an issue of whether or not Brad has a path. And if he was main phasing that as Kanta activation, I suspect the answer is no. I think Ross is going to have a good shot of winning the game this turn.
Ross wants to check things out real quick. He's got a pretty big graveyard to take a look at here. So we see that working, and we can let you know, our little buddy Joe Blizzard, he's working. He wins his match over Austin Collins 2-1. The sideboard came into play. He won both sideboarded games just like you thought he would. Rest in peace, Stony Silence.
Ceremonious Rejection.
Yeah, rejection. Yeah.
7 total copies of those cards.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot for Collins to overcome. He couldn't do it. So Joe Blizzard's going to play the winner, Jeffrey Carr. When we head that way. That'll be our feature match for the semifinals in Blizzard and Carr. Azorius versus that mono red Phoenix deck. Swift Spear.
And now I think Ross probably has the tools to beat even one path.
He'll play opt. And Brad says, I am beat. He'll concede the game. Ross Merriam going to win game number 1 here over Brad Nelson. Is it Phoenix up a game here over Jeskai Control? Interesting little game there. Ross able to just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. Didn't deck himself and was able to finally deal enough points of damage to win this game. So we turn our attention here to Nelson and his sideboard. And he's got some goodies here, folks. 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Dispel, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Vendilion Click, and the 5 1-ofs that we've seen from Brad so many times this weekend in Lyra Dawnbringer Negate, Baneslayer Angel of Braid, and Engineered Explosives.
So I really like the Celestial Purge, the Surgical Extractions, and I would bring in the Angels here as well. They're probably a little bit worse against Merriam because he's aware of them. He has Lightning Axes in his deck, but I think the upside's probably still high enough to bring in.
I'm going to take a look here at the other side of things for Ross Merriam. 3 Abrade, 2 Ceremonious Rejection of his own, 2 Alpine Moon, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Dispel, 2 Surgical Extractions, a Spell Pierce, and a Ral Is It Viceroy. Not a ton of things there.
I am into the 2 Dispels, the Spell Pierce, and the copy of Ral. If Ross really wants to get away from his bolts, then I could see bringing in the Surgical Extractions as well.
Well, that gives you an idea of what both players are working with here for game number 2 of their top 8 match. Winner of this one's going to play the winner of Mac Schranz playing Jund against Max Medeiros playing Grixis Death Shadow. And you could be a winner at the StarCityGames.com holiday sale, folks. And that's each and every one of you watching at home. 100 new items added daily. Now, this is going to begin now, but it ends January 7th. They got a lot of time to fill out that collection.
A ton. And new items, hundreds even, added daily over at go.starcitygames.com/holiday sale. Ends January 7th, so do some holiday shopping for your loved ones or do some self-shopping for yourself.
There it is.
Once the new year rolls around.
Treat yourself.
Yeah. Play mats, cards,
fine
slides,
leather goods. Treat yourself. That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Fine leather goods. Go.starcitygames.com/holiday sale. You can treat yourself for so many days with the holiday sale.
Yep.
Till January 7th? Whew.
Tommy Ashton, better known as Standerson on Magic Online.
Great screen name.
Dominant MTGO PTQ player.
That's right.
DC native. Came by the site today. Played one of our sealed challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Uses prize wall tickets on some packs.
That's right.
One of them was a 4th edition booster. We talked about that earlier. His first pack.
Yep.
Cards. Phantasmal Terrain. Gaseous Form.
Oh, he opened it?
Howl from Behind.
Okay.
Cyclopean Mummy. Proddish Gypsies. Fog. Sucking City. Wall of Fire. Wall of Water. Circle Protection Artifact. Grey Ogre. Stone Rain.
Your boy.
Grape Shot Catapult. Sea Serpent. And what I believe to be his rare, Crimson Manicore.
Can we bring up Crimson Manicore? Do we have Crimson Manicore in the... I don't... Okay.
A request so hot it broke the stream.
It did. It did. Crimson Manicore. All right, I'm going to guess right now. I'm not looking at it. I'm going to say creature type Manicore.
You got it. Summon Manicore. Might have been eroded after the fact when they did the creature type overhaul. I'm not sure.
2 red.
Yes.
This feels wrong. 4-3.
No.
2-3.
No.
Lower.
Lower.
0-1.
Higher.
2-2. Okay, what's going on here? Flying, red and a tap. Manticore deals 1 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. That's the rare?
I think so.
That's, oh boy.
There's, it's either this, I guess, a Circle Protection Artifact would be my second guess as to what the rare was.
That can't be the rare. They cannot be making Circle Protections rares.
Well, Circle Protection Artifact was the kind of the 6th one. It came out in Antiquities, I believe, after the original Circles. So I'm not sure. But my best guess is the Crimson Manicore is the rare.
Okay.
It is not that powerful.
No. No, it is not. Good artwork, though. I will give it that. Good artwork. Ross Merriam with top 8 number 24? 24. We got to update the graphic. Top 8 number 24 this weekend here for the 29-year-old from Connecticut. 4 open wins. Looking for number 5. He's going to have to get through Brad Nelson to do it. Never an easy task. 2 invitational top 8s as well. No wins there just yet. But next weekend is a great opportunity for him to change that. Season 2 Invitational at SCGCon Winter taking place December 7th through the 9th. Could be all 3 days there for Ross, the avid Utah Jazz fan, and the developer of what looks to be a pretty good archetype here in Is It Phoenix. He continues to put the time in, put the games in, put the reps in, and you see what he's getting out of it. Top 8s last weekend in Vegas. Top 8s this weekend in Baltimore.
Do you know what Cyclopean Mummy does?
All right, so that's whoo boy, that's a black creature. Is that right?
So far, so good.
Okay. 2 in a black?
No.
A little heavy there, huh?
A little heavy.
1 in a black.
Yeah.
All right. 0-1.
Heavier.
0-2.
Heavier.
0-4.
Heavier the other way.
Okay. 1-4.
It's a 2-1.
Okay. I don't know what it does. If Mummy is great, is put into the graveyard from play, remove it from the game.
Can't raise dead this. It's already dead. I suspect the thing they're trying to lean into here is the idea that the mummy sort of disintegrates when you kill it.
Sure. Okay.
Or it's a power level thing. Just this was the best creature to raise dead.
If it dies, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Nice.
The game is so cool that even if the cards are bad, it doesn't matter. It's still so much fun.
Spirebluff Canal into Sarah Visions here for Ross. He'll scry too. He's all about setting it up there for the Arclight Phoenix as Nelson starts things off with an island. Now he'll cycle, Hieroglyphic Illumination. And we're going to head back Ross's way. In a minute. Brad's turn first. He'll sack Scalding Tarn. Deploy Search for Escanta. A strategy that leads to a lot of wins most of the time, but didn't for Brad in the last game.
Yeah, surprisingly. I thought he had the tools to get it done, just I think needed a Supreme Verdict at some point, and that would have led to potentially decking Ross, but couldn't find it. Ross able to squeeze through the last few points. How many creatures in this booster pack have an activated power that can kill Cyclopean Mummy?
Well, at least one.
We already were over the Crimson Manicore.
No.
Actually, it is just the one. I misread Grape Shot Catapult. Can only ping flyers.
Wow. One it is. Thought Scour here. Another Thought Scour. Bolt and Manamorphose go to the graveyard. Draw a card. Ross will untap and begin his third turn now. Cyclopean Money.
The Mummy.
Holiday sale. Probably not. But you never know.
It's exiled if it dies.
Should they have brought that back with the mummies in Amonkhet?
Probably not. It's not the most fun.
Make them busted, but they're exiled when they die?
This doesn't sound very fun.
How's that for design? Manamorphose. Ross will draw. Looks like a red and a blue floating. Here's an opt. Only one red left. Spell 2.
I mean, you could do Eldrazi versus mummies, where the mummies are all exiled and then they get processed back, and that's then you can raise dead your mummies. Sort of a push-pull.
That product sells itself.
Yeah. I mean, what did they make? Tybalt versus who?
I don't know.
Mummies versus Eldrazi cannot sort. No one cares about that. Eldrazi's versus mummies, that pops.
Yep.
That's a conflict you want to see resolved.
That's true. You've got a nose for this stuff.
I know.
Really, you do.
I know.
I could see that just selling out of Walmarts, people trampling over each other on Black Fridays for it. Easily. Arclight Phoenix back from the graveyard. That's dead.
Yeah, you can see Ross giving some consideration to the possibility of surgical extraction. Paused a little bit before the Faithless Looting and asked Brad, does this resolve?
I think Ross has one of his Dispels in hand.
So this is interesting. Let's say you have surgical extraction. You would, if Brad had surgical extraction there, Ross would dispel it. So it's possible Brad's play there is electrolyze it, which you're not going to fight over, and then untap and then on my turn surgical and be able to fight over your dispel.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that looks pretty innocuous there, the possibility exists that Brad's slow rolling a surgical extraction, and Ross wants to protect himself against that possibility.
Makes some sense to me. Steam Vents untapped. It'll be a field of ruin. Spirebluff Canal will bite the dust. An island here for Ross. And Brad will get a basic plains. Another update here for you. Grixis Death Shadow. A little upset victory here over Max Shantz. So, Max Medeiros, our number 8 overall seed, going to play the winner of this one. We're heading back over to Ross Merriam now. He'll draw. Picked up a copy of Lightning Bolt. In for 3. Path to Exile says, I don't think so. Ross want to fight over it? He does. He's going to go, is it Charming? That's a tough way to have something happen there. Another path. Okay. Well, we are all in on Protect the Phoenix.
I mean, what else is he going to do with these counters? You know?
Nothing. Just seeing it happen. Search will transform.
What's more powerful, Wall of Water or Wall of Fire?
As it has more power.
More, however you want to define it.
Okay, well, I believe that Wall of Water has 1 power, Wall of Fire has 0.
Sort of a trick question. They're literally the same card.
Okay. Okay. Teferi's up to 5. They are literally the same.
I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, they are literally the same card.
One has fire breathing and one has
water
breathing.
shooting.
Yeah. It's the duplicitous edge on which we all tread. This Kanta is quite the card.
It's really messed up, though, is the thing. But Arclight Phoenix is a pretty good card, too.
Yes.
I must say. Crackling Drake. Nah. Illogical.
No hesitation there from Brad.
Nope. Get your value while you can. Ross going to ignore Teferi.
Going from 5 to 2 doesn't do a whole lot.
Nah, it really doesn't. And now Brad's in a spot. Down to 2. Phoenix going back. It's an island. What is this? This is probably a big angel. Oh, yeah.
You're going to put Ross to the test to have one of his lightning axes.
Gonna slay you real good, is Baneslayer. Yeah, you better go digging, Ross. Or you're in some trouble. Scry 2.
Thought that Brad would bring these in spite of the risk.
Nah, you gotta bring them in.
Yep.
Upside's too high. Baneslayer can win the game all by itself. The follow-up is another Serum Visions. Hit 1. Scry 2. That's what Ross is going to do. And it might take 2 bolts to try to get this thing off the battlefield, but you got to do it.
Well, if Ross has 2 bolts, then they're going at Brad. Because that is
you are not wrong.
That is lethal.
You are not wrong. Thank you. Faithless looting. Whoops.
2 Arclight Phoenix is set up.
All right. Does he have the axe? He's got the bolt. All right. Well, he solved that problem. He hasn't solved the Baneslayer problem yet. It's kind of, I'm pretty sure Baneslayer just has to attack, right?
Depends on what's in Brad's hand.
Let's just
I mean,
go
if
to
he can kill even one Phoenix, then I think that you can attack pretty safe.
Oh, boy. That's a really good Magic card.
Now you hang back. Just protect the fairy.
Untap a couple lands here, Brad. Digging in. Passing back.
Cinched in.
He's working on getting the sleeper hold in here. Ross wants to take a look at the graveyard.
Ooh.
Hello, Raul.
That plays.
That does play. Are we going for the dub? Wow! Ross Merriam going to win this game and match over Brad Nelson. 2-0. Hello, Raul. Is it Viceroy? How do you do, Ski?
That was it's